How big is that rock? Well, you really don't know how big it is until you can compare it to something else, like a pencil. Now you have a better idea of how big this rock is because you have something to compare it to. That basic concept is proportion. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at how to draw the human figure with proportion. Because until you really understand that, your human figure may not look accurate. And sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. But in this video, I want you to watch how I do this. So this is a mannequin that you can buy in any art store, and it is a tool that artists use to help them draw. And it is really great because it is a good learning tool for how to draw the human figure's proportions. So I'm going to start with a line down the center of my paper. And then I'm going to start with my head. And for this, we're going to just leave the pose simple like this. And I recommend if this is your first time doing this that you do the same thing. I'm going to begin at the top with my head, and I don't want to make it too big because I want to be able to fit the rest of my body in here. So that's the shape that I'm seeing. I'm looking at each shape as I'm drawing it. And I'm going to include the neck here with I draw them like parentheses, and then I make a little curved line there. This is the most important thing that you can draw. The size of the head will determine the size of the rest of the body. And I'm going to show you how that is. So I'm going to start off by measuring with my fingers from the bottom of the neck to the top of the head. I'm going to lock my fingers and move it down to this shape. I don't know if you noticed, but they're exactly the same size on this mannequin. That's going to help me to know how big to draw my next shape. So I'm going to measure here from the top of my neck, the bottom of my neck to the top of my head, move it down, make a little mark, and that's going to be my guide. Now I have to look up at my mannequin and see the shape here. I notice that it gets a little wider than the head. The bottom is here, and then it's kind of like a curve. And I always press lightly so that I can erase. Now I'm going to draw parentheses, and I'm looking at the size of them. They're so bigger than the neck, so I'm going to make it a little bigger with a curved line. Now I need to know how big to draw this shape. So let's see. It's smaller. Let me see how big the head is compared to that. So this is the same size as the head without the shape for the neck. So that's helpful. So I'm going to go like this, move it down, make a mark. I'm looking at the shape of this. I see that it's flat on the bottom. It comes out about as wide as the other top piece. Okay, moving on. These are the joints for where your legs and your body meet. It's like your hip joint. So I am going to draw my circles, and then I'm going to see how long to make this shape. Measure with my finger, just the shape, not the circles. It's a little teeny tiny bit bigger. So I'm going to take my fingers here, get to my head and my neck, maybe scoop my finger down a teeny tiny bit, go here, make a mark. Underneath that I draw my knee, that little circle, and then I'm going to connect from the outside of this one to the outside of this one. And I like to do a little curve there because the human body isn't straight like the machine. So I don't want a straight line, I want a curve. Okay? Now I know the knee lines up here, so I can go ahead and draw on this side because my pose has it as the same. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect today. Now I'm going to measure how long the leg is. Compared to that, it's the length of the joint and the leg. So I'm going to go from the top of the circle to the top of the next circle. Uh-oh, it goes off my page. So I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to try to squeeze and change my drawing because then it's going to not be an accurate proportion. If I try to put my feet here, the legs are going to be a little too short. So I'm going to let it go off the page. Now for the arms. This is a really important thing that I wish I learned when I was younger. I need to start getting familiar with where joints and where it hits the body. So if I imagine that there's a string that's connecting the elbows and it makes a line across the body, where is it hitting? And it's hitting right in this area of right below the waist. This is the waist. So I'm going to look at my picture I'm going to say, okay, well, here's the waist, and it's probably around this height that the elbows are, right? So I'm going to draw my circles for my shoulders, and then I'm going to draw my circles here for my elbows. And now I just made it easy for me because now I'm going to be able to just connect. Okay? Now where does the wrist hit on the body? If there's a string connecting their wrists, it hits right across the top of the thigh, which is right around here. Draw my circles, my wrists, connect them, and then I can include my hands. I'm just looking at the shape, okay? Now the arms seem a little long, and this seems a little small to me, so now is when I would just keep going back and looking and trying to tweak this to make it look like it fits. The head seems a little narrow, so I'm gonna make it a little bigger, a little wider. That looks a little better to me. But I didn't change the height of the head, and the height of the head is how I was measuring from the beginning. It might look a little funny just because I didn't end up drawing my entire leg and my feet, but this is in fact the accurate proportions because I was helping myself with this measuring of the head, comparing it to other parts, and then seeing where things cross. So this is a really good starter lesson for people who want to advance in their drawing skills. And like I said before, if this is your first time, you're going to want to leave your mannequin just the way it is with its arms down and straight. Then if you feel like you've gotten this, you can go ahead and try and do it again with a pose. Another fun thing to do would be to try to draw the head bigger and see how that changes the rest of your drawing. So have some fun with this, and don't stress out if it's not perfect. It's only the beginning, and the more you do it, the better you get.